All right, Bill, brother-in-law from Mississippi, 577 New Jersey here. Just a quick look here. This echo board was completely loose, falling off. So I put some new hardware on there and tightened it up for you. This has the AD203 Stinger board here. It was already installed when I got the radio. But you said you were getting a nasty RF hum and a squeal every time you turn the amp on. And I believe the amp is switched right here on the channel 9 normal switch. And I was hearing it a bit. There's a cure for that, man. You have to put a shield in here. A lot of times I just cut those out of 10 and then I solder them right in there, and it covers the IF section, and that usually takes care of the squeal like 99.9% of the times, man. Takes care of that RF hum. And I noticed D11's clipped. R55 looks good. The slug is MIA here, and this has the IRF 520 mod done to it with the companion part here. So it looks like it was done properly. It is an 8.2K on the bottom of the board there. And they removed C61, I believe. So I'm going to get, in order to tune this slug to peak with this mosfet in here, I have to take this inductor out and take a wrap off of it here, and then we'll be able to get a slug back in there and tune it for you to peak. Should work pretty good. This thing's padded down, you know, pretty much, so that helps protect it. You know, it's not going to do 100+ watts. If you cut these resistors out here, it will do over 100 watts, but then you got to be like super careful with your SWR and stuff. So we're just going to leave it alone, and you'll probably see like 75, you know, 70, 80 watts, maybe 100 watts on your hobby meter, but on a bird you'll see more like 60 watts. So that's more than enough in my opinion. And we're going to do a full factory alignment to this thing. It's going to get a protection diode on the back. Looks like the receiver amp is open a little bit too far here, so we'll check the receiver. We'll go through all that. I mean, other than that, the radio looks pretty good. There was a little bit of corrosion on the other side. I cleaned up for you and treated. There was some rust also here on this bottom cover. I wire brushed it and treated it with a little bit of oil so it doesn't keep rusting. It's probably going to be one of my last CB videos of the season here, because I got some other things coming up. This thing doesn't zoom too good, guys, but I'm looking at this back here, and I was going over these connections, and this center conductor is not even inside the pin here. It's just barely soldered to the top. The wire is just like laying across the end of the pin and barely hanging on there. So yeah, you got to look for things like that. I'll unsolder that and stick it deep down into the pin there and get some fresh solder on that for sure. Things like that you definitely want to look for, especially if you didn't do the install, you know. Alright, man, we just took the L14 slug out of the board there, and I just pulled a wrap off of this thing. It's got that coating on the copper there. I got to burn off with some solder, that way it'll take. Alright, man, we got L14 back in there with the slug down in there, tuned to peak. TX section all tuned to peak. D11 soldered back together. AMC set, the best we can set it for MOSFET driving MOSFETs. It's going to always be dirty, especially with the carrier turned down a little lower for the board, you know. That's just the nature of the beast, man. Definitely got the flat topping out of it, but the signal's pulling apart a little, but that's just the way it goes. These MOSFETs, they show a lot of power right at first when they're cold, and then the more you're on the key, the more they drop in power. You know, that's unlike the bipolar transistors. They kind of hold their power a lot better. So if you notice a little bit of power dip in this thing when you're really chewing on the rag, it's completely normal. Amp is on. 250 watt slug. The 5 is 50. The 10 is 100. So we're going to be looking somewhere right in between the 5 and the 10. 75 is right in the middle there. Yeah. Audio 1 2. Audio 1 2 1 2. Check 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 check. Audio 1 2. Audio 1 2. Check 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 check. Looks like it's doing 70 watts all day long. Connex killer, 70 watts all day long. Connex killer. And this this echo board here is a really high gain echo board, so do not use an amplified microphone with this radio. Do not use an amplified microphone with this radio, man. I want to show you guys what this thing's doing with the amp off. So 3 watt swinging oldie. 3 watt swinging oldie. 3 watt swinging oldie. 22, 23. Oldie, oldie. 1 2, 1 2, 1 2, 1 2. Yeah, it's about 3 swinging a little over 20. And that's on the clean side. You know, with these MOSFETs, you can get them doing 30, dirty 30. But we want to set this up as clean as possible, that's for sure, especially with this 203 stinger on here. Don't want to be putting too much garbage through that. Want this thing to last as long as possible. And now with D11 soldered back together, everything tuned properly, you should get many years of service out of this setup here. Brother-in-law down there in Mississippi somewhere. 577 Jersey said it, and don't you forget it. One thing I noticed here with this echo board is it has such a high gain amplifier on it, man. And it was just squealing, 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 man. Even with the mic gain way down and the AMC cranked almost all the way down to nothing. And then what I found was it was a little hard to hold the GoPro and do this with one hand. There's a little control VR right here on board here, and that controls your preamp gain. So that's like having a power mic right there, and that thing was like wide open. So what I did was I backed it all the way down till it shut off, and then I cracked it open just so that I could hear audio, and then I went just a little bit further with it. And now I'm going to do some retuning, man, because I've never worked with this echo board here before. This is a new one to me. It's a PCBX 1004R12. And can't say, I think I've seen these on eBay, but I never used one. They sound really good, and they got tons of gain, but you just got to know how to adjust them. You can't let them go out the door like that wide open, because then the radio is just going to do nothing but carry on and sound like shit, you know. And the operator is going to have to really keep his mic gain way down. I like these echo boards a lot, man. Plenty of gain. No need for freaking power mic anymore. Like I said, I don't know how many times. And this thing's got like the audio of a Connex too. Completely changed the bandwidth on the transmit audio. Made it more of a high fidelity piercing audio, which I really like, you know. As long as it's set up properly, you know, this radio is going to sound killer. So I'll give you guys another sample of the over-the-air audio now that I got it tuned in a little bit better, and see what you think. Compare it to the one that I just showed before. Bump, bump. Alright, we got the center conductor soldered in there properly now, where it's supposed to be. And this is just the radio, so that's the 50 watt scale. And now that we got that echo board gain set up properly, she's sounding a lot better, I think. Oh yeah, 1 2. Audio 1 2 2 2. Audio, check check. Still doing the same over 20 there. Audio 1. Not squealing and carrying on like it was. Remember? Squealing, carrying on. I was like, what's going on here, man? AMC's all the way down and it's still carrying on.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. 577 New Jersey. Cobra 29, Connex killer, Connex killer, Connex killer. That's right, bumpity bump, check, check.
You know who you are. Number 3, number 3. Radio garage, radio garage. Check, 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 1 2. Bump, bump, boy, I wish I had this radio. I'd be frickin' rattling some eardrums. I'd be tickling some eardrums with this radio, that's for damn sure. 577 New Jersey, and we're gone, bum bum. Man, that thing sounds good. Don't let them tell you that the Chinese Cobra 29s won't sound good, man, because they can, even with MOSFETs on them. Just keep an eye on your SWRs and your antenna tuning. It's super critical with these MOSFETs, man. They're very sensitive to any kind of reflect. All right, we got the signal generator warming up over here. We're going to check the receiver, and we're going to add talkback to a switchback here for you, no extra charge. And then that's it, man. We're going to button this thing up, get it in the mail, and ship it back over to you. Mr. Willie, brother-in-law, somewhere down there in Mississippi. All right, man, we got that shield in there. It's working good. Just got to get the talkback wired up to the switch on the back, and we're done with this one, man. I just checked out the receiver, and it's sensitive and quiet down below 130 dBm. These guys just found an old drift mine from like 1890, man. I can't wait to see when they get in there with their hip waders and shit. Just love that stuff. Figures the furnace just kicked on, man. I got the talkback all in here. It's on a switch in the back. And I chased all this corrosion off this board, scrubbed it all off, and then I brushed on a protective coating here, a real little thin layer of oil on everything, super thin, so the board shouldn't corrode anymore for a while. Looks really good, man. These radios take a while, man. I put hours into each one, so we are a dying breed. The old school hobbyists. Definitely a dying breed. I just got done cooking another kick-ass meal with this cast iron pan, man. I made potatoes, corned beef, I threw an egg in there at the end, and I use avocado oil. This is just that cheap Ozark Trail. I don't think it's a 10-inch, 10.5 inch maybe skillet, and it's got the Lodge grip on it there, because I have a Lodge also over there, but I've been really digging this Ozark. I like buying cheap stuff and making it better, so what I did was I sanded this down. I think I used 80 grit, 60 or 80 grit with an orbital sander. Sanded it down because it was really rough, smoothed it out a bit. Then I just seasoned it a few times with that avocado oil, and I've cooked in it maybe like 4 or 5 times so far since. And this thing is just beautiful, man. Beautiful. Best tasting food I ever had. Makes the best pork chops, bone in or boneless. Makes the best steaks. The egg that I just made just slid right out. You know, when I went to turn it, it just flipped right over. Beautiful, beautiful, easy over eggs, man. If you guys never cooked with cast iron, man, go out and get one and watch a couple videos on it and learn about how to take care of them. It's actually kind of a fun thing, you know. I'm kind of looking at it as a new hobby, actually. I never really knew much about them and how great they were, but holy crap, man. Cast iron from now on, baby. Bump, bump. All right, brother-in-law, we got it all squared away for you now. She's working good. We got the talkback on the back here on the switch. Up is on. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Audio check, check, check. And you said you were getting a nasty RF hum with the amp on. Amp on. Talkback off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Audio 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Might be picking up a very slight hum from the light up here, but that's what I always get on the bench. Check, check. And right there's amp off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Amp on. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, man. 577 Jersey. And we'll catch you all on the next one. Bump, bump. Check, check.